So according to the Centers for Disease Control, before there was a vaccine for measles, hundreds of people in the U.S. got it and hundreds died every year. But in 1963, a measles vaccine was created, and thankfully because of that, we don't have to deal with measles in the U.S. anymore. Vaccines are important, but there are some people who don't vaccinate their children because they think that autism is caused by vaccinations, and more specifically the MMR vaccine. And but I can assure you that the MMR vaccine does not cause autism. So as I said, the MMR vaccine does not cause autism. There is so many studies that there's absolutely no link between the MMR vaccine and autism. Rather, autism is caused by other things. And because of this thought that people think that the MMR vaccine does cause autism, children are not being vaccinated. So what is MMR? So according to the Mayo Clinic, MMR stands for measles, mumps, and rubella. They are all caused by a virus, and they all spread from person to person. So measles spreads by infected droplets. So if somebody is infected and then that person inhales their droplets, they'll be infected with the measles. And then with mumps, they also spread by inhaled droplets as well. So the same thing happens if somebody who's unvaccinated inhales those droplets, they'll be diagnosed with that as well. And then rubella also spreads person to person by respiratory secretions, and also if a mom is pregnant and has rubella, it can pass to her fetus through the bloodstream. What is the MMR vaccine? So according to the Centers for Disease Control, this protects against measles, mumps, and rubella. And then there's 2 doses that are given, one at 12 to 15 months and one at 4 to 6 years. And there's mild and moderate risks for this vaccine, as there is for any other vaccine, and those are usually fever, rash, and sometimes seizures can be caused by the fever, if the fever is high enough. And then there's also severe risks, which are allergic reactions that can lead to blindness or brain damage or deafness, but it's very, very rare and happens to about 1 in 4 million children who get this vaccine. So what is autism? So the formal name for autism is autism spectrum disorder. And according to the CDC, the characteristics of autism are social, communicational, and behavioral changes. And autism, they have found, is caused by genetic factors, environmental factors, and maternal factors. And they've also found that it develops during fetal development. And some symptoms of autism are repetitive behaviors. They don't like change in daily activity. And they also have a hard time interacting with others. So now that we know what measles, mumps, rubella, and autism is, I'm going to explain why people think that the MMR vaccine causes autism. So it all started with a publication in Britain in 1998 that was released by a man named Andrew Wakefield. And he said that the MMR vaccine causes autism due to thimerosal, which is a preservative that was in the multi-dose vials of the MMR vaccine. But in 2004, all the authors retracted their information and said that the information was all falsified, and they said that there actually is no link between MMR and autism. But even after this, people still think that the MMR vaccine causes autism because their child was not normal after this vaccination, or they started to have autistic symptoms. But what they don't know is that, what they didn't realize is that at the same time that these kids are getting this MMR vaccine, these autistic symptoms are showing up. So it just happens to happen at the same time that people are correlating them together. So why the MMR vaccine does not cause autism? So according to multiple studies, they have shown that genetics, environmental factors, maternal factors, and then fetal development is what causes autism. And so for environmental factors, if a kid is living in a home that has vinyl floors, if they live within 1,000 feet of a freeway when they're born, if they are exposed to any traffic-related or just regular air pollution, they are 2 times as likely to get autism. And they're also doing a study right now on mercury to see if that causes autism as well. And then for maternal factors, if mom smokes and she's exposed to certain pesticides during her first trimester, if she has maternal diabetes, if she's obese, if she has any inflammation due to any infection during pregnancy, if she has rubella, measles, mumps, cytomegalovirus, or influenza during pregnancy, this will double the fetus's risk for autism. And for fetal development, they found that it develops in the brain between 10 and 24 weeks of gestation. And so I'm just going to show you a video now from PBS. It's called Vaccines Calling the Shots, to explain a little bit more about the fetal development.
And they've led scientists to an extraordinary new insight that autism begins in the womb.
The genetics are pointing to early developmental processes, so somewhere between 10 and 24 weeks or so of gestation. We don't know everything that causes autism at this point, but all of the genetics is pointing to fetal origin.
So as autism reveals its secrets, it's increasingly clear that childhood vaccines cannot be the cause.
So even after all of this, people still believe that these vaccinations are causing autism, so they're not vaccinating their children. And according to the CDC, because these children are not being vaccinated, these diseases are still spreading, and they still exist all over the world. The only disease that is completely gone from the earth is smallpox. Otherwise, measles and polio still exist, and other diseases like that. It just takes that one infected person to come into the U.S. to spread that disease to the unvaccinated people. So the CDC was wondering how they could increase their vaccination rates. And so they came up with a program that's called Vaccines for Children. And what it is it's a federally funded program where clinics can go and buy all these vaccines to give to children who are underinsured or uninsured, or if they qualify for Medicaid, then they can receive these vaccines at no cost to them. Otherwise, they wouldn't be able to afford them because their parents can't afford them. And so because of that program, all these children are being vaccinated who wouldn't. And there's 40,000 clinics around the United States that do have this program. Then they also found that when pediatricians recommend vaccines to parents, they are more likely to go back and get these vaccines for their children. And usually when they correlate them around a certain date, so if they say come back around Christmas or Halloween, the parents are more likely to remember that they have to go back and get these vaccines. So, like I mentioned, people believe that the MMR vaccine causes autism, and because of this, their children are not being vaccinated. But there are so many different sources that say that autism is not caused by the MMR vaccine, and there's so many sources that say that, so I don't understand why people still think that it does. And so also, like I said before, there's hundreds of people that died from measles every year, and prior to there being a vaccination. So now that there is a vaccination, not only for measles, but for all these other vaccinations, why would anybody take the risk?
Excellent. Can you give us vaccination rates? The CDC must have those.
Probably, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That would be interesting to know, because we all kind of hear that people are not vaccinating their children, but what groups don't? And is there a certain class of people or age group where new parents, maybe it's ethnicity related? I'd be interested to know how many are not vaccinated, because we hear some of these diseases are, coming forth again because, maybe the mom, don't get involved in the healthcare system, something like that, right? So, just an interesting thing.
Yeah, for sure.
You improved your ums.
Good.
That's good. I agree.
Yeah. Oh, they're not noticeable. I mean, everybody probably throws one in here and there, but they're not to the point where it makes you think that you're doing it too often.
Well, every time, when I listened to the other tape, I heard my ums, and I was like, oh, God, I said it a little.
Well, yeah, that's why you kind of want to focus on it, and people use it as a staller.
Yeah, I mean, I don't do it.
There's nothing wrong with silence.
It just comes out.
In your research, did you find any link or anything to the people that are saying that it's unsafe, being like the stars or whatever? There's a couple of people that didn't, famous people that didn't vaccinate their children because they think it causes autism.
Yeah, I didn't look into like the celebrity-wise or like the specific people, I guess. I didn't look into why people did think it caused autism, but that probably would have been a good thing to look into to see why they still think it does.
Was increased after they came out and said, I'm not vaccinating my kids.
Does thimerosal have mercury in it?
I don't know.
It doesn't, does it? I mean, that's the preservative I've heard, but I've also heard the mercury link, but I don't know why they would think mercury is in the vaccine.
Right. Yeah. No. I think
so it's not in thimerosal, is it?
No, I think they're more just looking to see if mercury, like from fish, causes
Okay.
autism. Because I know right now they're encouraging people to take fish oil while they're pregnant. Because I guess it can decrease the risk of autism. But then they're wondering if the mercury in the fish oil.
I don't think fish oil has mercury. So I checked my bottle after we talked last night. So, and the other interesting thing we talked about last night, Julie, I think was that they've been vaccinating now for over 50 years, and autism has only become prevalent really the last 10 or 15. So obviously there's obviously other factors besides, because you didn't really hear as much autism now as what you heard of 30 years ago.
Yeah, they think it's increasing, right?
Yes.
But I don't think
Sure.
they diagnose people the way they do now. Everyone needs to have a problem and a label.
Yeah.
But what I've noticed with the students at my school who have autism is if one in their family does, it's often that their siblings do too have some form of autism. So I agree with the genetic part of that.
Yeah, there's a higher risk for like if your sibling has autism or you have an older parent too, especially the dad.
Also switch to hardwood floors, get rid of the vinyl.
Yeah. Did you say, I saw a statistic you had there, 1 in 4 million? What is that statistic?
Oh, for the severe risks for the MMR vaccine, 1 in 4 million will
Okay,
have those severe
that's not-
reactions.
Did you also state the frequency of autism? How often that's occurring?
No.
That would be interesting, right? I mean,
Yeah.
that's the point of your talk, so we
Right.
should know how often autism is being diagnosed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I remember reading somewhere it was 1 in 68 children in the United States were diagnosed with autism.
Okay.
But as Allison said 30 years ago, they didn't diagnose it the same way, so it could be
Right.
1 in 1,000,
Right.
right? So yeah.
Now there's parents wanting their child to get a label so that they can get extra help, even though they don't need it.
Good job.
Yeah, very good.